we have an overabundance of cherry tomatoes in the church garden, right out there. Overabundance. Last Sunday alone, we harvested, I think it was 12 pounds of cherry tomatoes. Why do we have so many cherry tomatoes? Well, pretty simple. The gardeners planted a lot of cherry tomato plants. And then, unlike last year when we got a fungus in the garden and we had to yank them all out, this year we had beautiful sunshine during the growing season and enough rain, and the gardeners tended their plants, made sure that they were staked up, and voila, a bountiful harvest. And it's a bountiful harvest in spite of the fact that there's one particular gardener who shall remain unnamed, I don't know who that would be, who eats one cherry tomato for every one she puts in the bag. Boy, are they good. Oh, I don't know who that is. Who does that? And in spite of that, there's more than enough. More than enough for the gardeners, more than enough for the people at Open Dam who come to pick up the produce that we take to them. We haven't totaled it yet, but I know our biggest harvest, we harvest once or twice a week, our biggest harvest this summer was 108 pounds in a single harvest. So, yeah. And that's an organic garden. No, not a single pesticide or whatever else you would do, fertilizer that's not organic of any kind. God has blessed our garden. And I think it's an example of what we are talking about in the passage from 2 Corinthians. It's an example of sowing abundantly and reaping abundantly, and then cheerfully giving away, sharing that which we have received. And I think the garden, then, is a perfect example of how it is that God would have us live our lives. Because we all have been given various gifts, as we know, as I talked to the children about. We've all been given time. We've all been given various talents to greater or lesser degrees. We've all been given financial resources, money. And those things, in my mind, are like those little tiny seeds. Those gifts, time, talent, money, are like the little tiny seeds that then are the beginning of that abundant garden. And so the gardeners take the seed and plant it in the ground and water it and nurture it, and to the best of their ability keep away the insects and the critters and the weeds. And the result is that God takes that effort, and with a little bit of luck, if you're a farmer, you got to have a little bit of luck too, but God takes that effort and blesses it. And there's an abundance to be shared. That's what happens in our lives. God takes our time, our talents, our resources, as we nurture them and plant them and use them, and God blesses them. For the sake of our congregation, for the sake of the world, for the sake of the community. And that happens astoundingly even, or maybe especially in challenging times, like many of us are experiencing right now. And we're going to have a concrete example. Sometimes we just need to see things happen. We're going to have a concrete example of that during this more than enough focus that we're doing for the next month. So, believe it or not, a little bit later in the service, something's going to happen that you may never see in your lifetime again. Money's going to be handed out in church. Instead of us receiving it, we're going to receive it too later in a whole different way. We're going to stand up here and we're going to pass out money. Now, there's people in our congregation who have already committed themselves to doing a giving project in which they take that $20 or that $50 or that $100 and use it in some way, using their gifts and their time, use it in some way so that it is multiplied. Now, if you haven't committed yourself to doing that, but you would like to, that's fine. Please come up. There's more than enough. And all you have to do is between today's September 12th, between today and October 9th, you've got not quite a month. You need to take that money, take your time, your talents, and use that money in some way so that it is multiplied. And then on October 10th, we're going to come back together for one service. We have a celebration time. We're going to see some photos and hear some stories about the various projects and bring that money forward. And guess what? None of it is staying here. Every bit of it's going outside of our congregation. It's going to go to the Oasis Project at St. John St. Paul Lutheran Church, which is a project for supporting and encouraging urban youth. It's going to go to the Foster Children Program at the Summit County Children's Services, and it's going to go to Lutheran World Relief, and particularly the Malaria Initiative. Our time, our talents, and the money that was provided by a generous anonymous donor is going to be multiplied for the good of the world. Now, why would we do this? Why would we do this? Well, I think sometimes, as I said a few minutes ago, we need a concrete picture of the way God works. And that's what's going to be happening. It's sort of an expansion of what was happening earlier in the summer when I asked all of you to share with me the ways that you had experienced God's power and God's presence in your lives. And remember, I got so many stories. We ended up using them on 2 Sundays, and we all were so blessed by those testimonies. Well, I think that's what's going to happen now. I think we're all going to hear and see how people are using the gifts that God has given them, and we're going to be blessed. And I think sometimes it's good to have a real visual image of how it is that God is blessing us. Particularly because this is the time of year that we start to think about what our estimates of giving are going to be to support the congregation. So as we watch this seed money be planted and grow, it'll remind us also that as we invest our own resources in the ministry of the congregation, that God blesses that as well. And I hope these words from 2 Corinthians will become very real to us. And God is able to provide you with every blessing in abundance, so that by always having enough of everything, always having enough of everything. Do you have enough? Didn't say an overflow. Do you have enough? By always having enough of everything, you may share abundantly into every good work.